Hey everyone, and welcome to Mild Fuzz TV's Top 50 Movies of the Decade. This is part 2, so make sure you check out part 1. But this episode is going to have numbers 45 through 41 from all 5 members of the Mild Fuzz TV team. So without further ado, let's get into number 45.
So number 45, another comedy. My list probably gonna have more comedy. Maybe Tim, but Tim's weird when it comes to comedy. But number 45 is 21 Jump Street, which this is how you do a reboot slash remake, whatever you want to call it. It's very self-referential. The two leads, Jonah Hill, like skinny Jonah Hill too, which that was a thing for a hot second, and Channing Tatum. I always say it's not fair that Channing Tatum gets to look the way he does and still be funny. But yeah, the comedy hits, rewatchable. It's got Brie Larson, which is always fun. When you look back and go, oh yeah, she'd later go on to win an Oscar, and she's in this comedy.
Do you know what's so weird? I saw that in theaters and I've not seen it since, and
Yeah,
I didn't know who Brie Larson was at the time,
yeah,
so I didn't notice she was there because I didn't know who she was, and now that I do know who she is, I don't remember her being there, so
yeah.
that's one of
It's
those weird
weird.
anomalies, but
Yeah,
that's
when you
what it
go
is.
back and watch it, you're like, oh wow. But yeah, no, 21 Jump. There's not much I can say other than I really find it funny, and it really relies on those two guys. If Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill don't have as good a chemistry as they do, I don't think it works, and you don't get the sequel. Ice
Yeah.
Cube also. That
The
that
sequel's not as good, but
no.
I mean, I liked how it played with your expectations. There's a really good
Mhm.
joke later on about cars not exploding. That's all I'll say.
Yep.
That particularly broke me when I saw that in the
Mhm.
theater. So
Yeah.
I'll
Well, and
say.
then there's a part with Ice Cube as well, in the second one. That's one of my all-time favorite comedy moments when he finds something out and they have to eat dinner, and he gets into the line and starts yelling at the poor people at the buffet because he's upset about other things. Kills me every time. So, but
Mm.
yeah, Ice Cube's also great in it.
My 45 is a this is a movie that's here on purely technical merit. This is not a big character piece or anything like that. Baby Driver. This
Mm.
is this is a musical. No matter what it says, it's entirely driven by its music, its soundtrack, and the way that plays into every single scene. We have so many scenes of action scenes of the driving around that only work because they are choreographed perfectly to whatever song is playing, and it is that technical ability that when I'm watching it is just it's so much fun when I'm watching it. I just love the experience of it, more than any deep character things because the characters are fine. They do exactly what they need to do to deliver me the visual spectacle, the audio visual spectacle that it is, and for that reason, yeah, I would happily watch it anytime, and I have done quite a few times since it came out actually, and always had a blast because the first time I saw it, there was a concern that is this the cinema experience that's kind of bumping it up a little bit more. How does this translate to a home environment where you haven't got giant speakers blasting all the sound at you and such? And the fact that it held up for me, is why it kind of gets this place. Just sneaking onto this list here.
It's okay. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
I was underwhelmed with the story quite a bit, particularly the third act. The action stuff with the car and the timing of the music is very impressive, as are a couple of chase sequences on foot even, but I thought the story fell short for me, and so yeah.
That's fair. I'm not saying it's the best story ever. I think it's serviceable for what it is.
So this was actually a late addition to my list. I think I ended up knocking something out for because I hadn't really thought of it at first, and then it popped up, and I double checked, and I was like, oh, okay, that was yeah, like this decade. And it's a movie that I don't think I was crazy about at first, but then I found myself kind of like watching like more and more often and liking it more and more, and especially when I would have some drinks, it would be like if I was drunk, I was like, all right, I want to put this on, and that is an Edgar Wright film called The World's End.
Okay, all right. The
Yeah, like
the often sort of the deride is a bit strong, but
yeah,
the one in the trilogy that people don't tend to think of as fondly.
yeah, and I think I was probably that same way when I first saw it, but again, I bought it on Blu-ray when it came out, and it just seemed like the more and more I watched it, the more and more I found to like it, to like about it, and I won't argue that it's probably not the weakest of the Cornetto trilogy, but I still think it's super fun. Everyone gives like really great performances, and I just think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I liked it when I saw it. I mean, I did still think it's the weakest of the three, but it has good cast, has good moments. Comedy's still pretty sharp.
45 is Eddie the Eagle, which is a movie I don't think a lot of people saw, but it was so good and so fun. It stars Taron Egerton and Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah, and it's another true story with some dramatic liberties about Eddie, what's his name? Michael Eddie Edwards or something. Like he has a dumb name. And how he went into the represented the British in the 1988 Olympics, Winter Olympics, for the Olympic ski jump. Although he's never done it before, he just wanted to be an Olympian since he was a child, and it's so fun and such a blast. And it's another one that I saw and just handed the DVD copy to other people. Like, you need to watch this; it's so good.
Yeah,
And,
I have to admit I'm in the same boat. I've not seen this. I remember it coming out.
Add it to the list.
I remember the poster of him with the helmet, the helmet on. Like, I remember the visual of what the movie is. What you're describing sounds like it's like the British version of Cool Runnings, to be honest. Like, he just wanted to be in the Olympics.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it has a little bit of that. It's got a lot more style.
Sure.
And it's got a fantastic scene of Hugh Jackman going down the ski jump, drinking whiskey and smoking a cigar, flicking it right before the jump goes. It's so good.
My number 45 is Stoker. This is the English-speaking film from Chanwick Park, which I'm specifying because up until this point, at least as far as I know, everything he'd done had been in Korean, because that's where he's from. He does films from South Korea, some of my favorites even. And sometimes when a foreign director it gets big, in their own country or whatever else, and then they go to the US to make a movie, and Nicole Kidman's in this movie, Mia Wasikowski's the lead character in this movie, and it's like sometimes that doesn't work out so well. But this, I thought, was a wonderfully dark little coming of age thriller, is how I'd describe it. That has these awkward moments, these awkward silences, but it's very much about this awakening in this teenage girl, played by Mia Wasikowski, and her kind of standing up to this, creepy uncle character who's kind of like come to live with her and her mother, and like all those relationships and how do they all kind of vibe against each other, and the influence that he has in her life, and the weird, like, is there something incestuous kind of happening here? Where's it going with this? It's all very macabre and it's and its subject matter, but it's all doing this to be a coming of age story, which makes it very, very provocative, I suppose, is the word I'd use. But no, it's got a wonderful sense of direction and style. I remember this having a good soundtrack as well. I saw this twice in theaters when it came out. It's been a while though. I'd have to. I should watch it again. But Stoker's very good.
So we're at number 44. This is the first Oscar movie that I have on here, and there's gonna be a couple more, I think, if I know my stuff well. But number 44 is Argo, the Ben Affleck one. I guess it's the only one, and I didn't have to qualify that. But I got really into the making of this movie off of the true life story of getting these hostages out of Iran, and just like Jack Kirby was actually involved in the real story, comic book artist and creative, who he drew up all of these fake movie storyboards and and concept art. And once I'd heard that, this was a movie that I had to see, and the movie I think exceeded expectations, because I felt like Affleck, I think, was coming off The Town.
Yeah,
and he was,
I felt really weird with that, because I like this movie a lot as well, and I was genuinely surprised because Gone Baby Gone and The Town were both well done enough, but both of them left me feeling kind of cold. Like there was something missing from both of them. This one I felt was the first one he's directed that it kind of hit the mark, and it kind of felt like, oh no, he's actually kind of nailing his craft here a little bit. And no, the Argo was Like it's got a cast from top to bottom as well. You got
Yes, it does.
Alan Arkin in there. You got obviously Ben Affleck himself. Clea Duvall's in there, who you may know as the Invisible Girl from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
There it is. Yeah, Scoot McNairy when he was a thing for a hot second. But yeah, no, it's really good too. Really well paced, and it even though you kind of know how it ends if you're familiar with the story, up until you get to that third act, he's stringing you along and you're just as invested. But yeah, that's pretty good.
My 44 is Tusk. This is the Kevin Smith movie that is about a man and his walrus. I kind of don't really want to spoil how weird this movie is. It's, it starts off, it's a little bit strange. Things are just a bit odd, and then it goes next level, and it's so strange. It's creepy and terrifying, but at the same time, kind of very darkly funny because of what the hell is going on in this movie. I don't really want to spoil any more than that, because it's an experience that you should go into knowing absolutely no more than that. And I stand by it. It would be by far Pete's favorite Kevin Smith movie if he ever dared to watch it.
That'd be The Final Girls. So we talked about it on the horror movie list, but this is just a really fun kind of meta horror movie. Basically these horror fans get sucked into an actual like horror movie. It's a Friday the 13th like movie, and fun times ensue. And again, I kind of mentioned it on the horror list, but I feel like one of the trends we got in horror was like I feel like there's a lot of like kind of meta commentary, and I thought this was one of the better examples of it. And I feel like they other people kind of try to do similar stuff. Like there was a movie with like almost the same title, just called like The Final Girl or whatever,
No,
which was like
there's no it's just Final Girl.
So it's
And
Final Girl.
not only that, it came out the same year and actually shares a cast member. It was so confusing that those two came out. That one you can skip though, even though it sounds good on paper.
Yeah.
The plot sounds good, but because that movie's about a secret agent as the girl's actually trained to infiltrate to try and capture these bad guys. It sounds like a good idea, but the movie's actually kind of dull. Final Girls is much better.
Yeah, like they and I think what we mentioned before was surprising about it is actually has a lot of genuine like heart and emotion to it. Like there's a cool concept to it, and it does some fun horror stuff. It probably could have gotten a little heavier on the horror, but you actually do end up generally feeling something for the characters.
Yeah, we should mention
it's surprising.
We should mention the heart comes from the fact that the main character's dead mother was an actress in the movie, so she kind of gets to meet her mother again, but she's not her mother. It's got this, and it does really good stuff with that. I love Final Girls. It's a good pick. Good pick, Tim.
Thank you.
But yeah, 44.
44 is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Of the recent trilogy, this is my favorite of them. I think it's really, really special in the Star Wars franchise, although I know about half the fans disagree. I really love the journey of Luke Skywalker in it. I love his hero's arc, and you I know you're done talking about Star Wars, but I could gush about it for a while.
I like you can gush about it as long as you want. It's your list. You can gush as your heart's
Okay,
content.
and the porgs are great. It gave us porgs, so it probably should be higher for that. Let me redo this.
Not the porgs. Never the porgs, okay? Never the porgs. My number 44, and this one was a surprise for me because it's like, well, partly because I didn't know the director before the movie, but just because it's one of these things where I've went on a rant a couple of times recently about franchises coming back and try to do these nostalgia sequels and these soft reboots and how they blah blah blah, and how there's too many of them and how they mostly never justify their existence. This is one of the exceptions to that, and this is Creed, because Creed is phenomenal. Creed, like Ryan Coogler came in, and I will say it, he made a better movie than any of the Rocky franchise. And I Rocky 1's a great movie. I love watching 3 and 4. I think they're really fun, goofy but fun. Balboa, the 6th one, was surprisingly pretty decent. And then 5 is pretty bad. 2 is just okay. But like, I think Creed's better than Rocky 1. I'll say it, and I think it's because the story, the emotional story that Coogler builds for Creed in this, for Adonis Creed, is so well defined that by the time we get to the last act and we have the big final boxing match, and I won't spoil anything, of course, because what's the point of this top list if I'm spoiling everything? But there's a moment where it kind of reaches an emotional climax where he kind of like finally says what this has all been about, that it just lands so well and just feels so like, yes, punch him, do it. Like, and I'm someone who doesn't care about boxing. You know, I don't like it. I don't like most sports. But in a movie, because you can give me characters with stakes and you can make me care about them, you know, it's a wonderful ending. There's it's a very, you know, uplifting story, regardless. And you know, then Stallone does a great job as well as the, you know, he's become the trainer. He's become the Polly, the, oh god, Burgess Meredith's character from Rocky. Oh god, what's his name? Mckay. Mckay's Burgess Meredith's character.
That. Okay, good.
Mckay. I had to look it up, but it was bugging me. Yes, Rocky's become the Mckay.
Number 43. Thought about not having this one, but I also figured I needed, because I love the character involved in this so much. This is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the Harry Potter spinoff. It's hard not to color it by it's not as good sequel, like far and away. It's pretty ungood, I would say. But Eddie Redmayne's character of Newt Scamander, I love him, and I can't not. And anytime this is on TV, because now it's hitting its, you know, cable run, I stop and catch myself watching scenes from it quite often. Trying to think of some of the other casts that are in there. And Colin Farrell, you got Ezra Miller, being a sad emo boy. Not that it's unjustified. He's every reason to be sad in this movie. But and it's a fun take that for Harry Potter, which I was super invested in the book, so you kind of always know where they're going. This was the first time where I'm involved since reading the books that I have no idea where this is heading. And now kind of knowing, I kind of wish I didn't.
43 is How to Train Your Dragon, the first one. Pete's smiling. Don't tell me it's your 43.
I can't say because we're not going to be back to back in the edit. So just you continue.
Okay, fine. So, How to Train Your Dragon is a wonderful coming of age movie. This animated from DreamWorks. I want to say DreamWorks. And it is, you know, about a boy who lives in this Viking world, and they hunt dragons because dragons are terrible. But he befriends one, and over the course of the movie, has to convince his village that maybe dragons are okay. And it's this wonderful journey that he goes on with his friends, and it's this big fantasy adventure with a lot of heart to it. And dragons are cool, and it's got a great score that I still listen to now, and it kicked off a pretty great trilogy overall. It's a really, really good movie. Couple of logical inconsistencies in its own script that always bothered me on a rewatch, but not enough to really ruin the movie. There's, like, you know, some mechanics that it sets up early on that then it kind of forgets about, and not even later in the trilogy, just later in this film, that, you know, it forgets about its own mechanics. Like there's one that the dragons only have so many shots of, you know, only so many fireballs in them before they have to recharge, and that just kind of gets abandoned real quickly. It's a shame because it was a cool idea.
43. So that'd be a sci-fi movie. I guess you probably would say it was sci-fi. And that would be Attack the Block. This is just such a. You're nodding your head.
It's sci-fi. Yes, I'm agreeing. It's sci-fi. It's about aliens, bruv.
Yeah, yeah, like aliens attacking. In England, I guess. What would you say? Kind of like an urban area of.
Yeah, it's like
England,
a London housing estate by the looks of it.
I don't know. Like, do you have like a specific term, like where? Because it's kind of supposed to be like a. I don't want to say like slums or whatever, but I guess like a.
It kind of is,
like,
yeah.
I guess.
Council estate, I think, is what we would call it,
Okay.
but yeah.
But you know, it's just a really cool, like, young these aliens land, and then you have these kind of like young I guess I don't know if they're in a gang or whatever, but like hoodlums or whatever.
Yeah, they're teenagers. They mug people, you know.
Yeah, but they it's cool like seeing them fight against the aliens, and you have John Boyega as the main character, does a really great.
I just realized why you like this movie. The lead
What's that?
actor is John the Boyega.
Yeah, so I wasn't gonna mention anything, but I love anything boy with the boy in it. But no, this is just really cool. And speaking of Edgar Wright earlier, I believe this came from someone who was a I don't know what you would call, like a contemporary of his or like a friend of his.
Yeah, Joe
or something.
Cornish, as a collaborator, I suppose, maybe.
It's collaborator. And yeah, this is kind of like him branching out and doing his own thing, and it's just he nailed it. It's really, really fun. Alien invasion movie with again, looking at like some characters and stuff that normally you don't see in this. I like that it's not like a big, like a massive world thing where we're looking at like army generals and the president and stuff. It's like, no, you're just focusing on this very like specific section of London, and it's really entertaining.
Yeah, aliens are an interesting design as well. They're this like pitch black with glowing like blue gooey like eyes, but they're sort of porcupine-esque, but they're so dark that you can't actually make it out of detail. It's kind of a unique design.
Yeah, it's very simple, but like very effective.
Okay, my number 43 is Zootopia.
Okay, Zootopia's pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw that one.
It's a surprisingly mature subject for a children's film, and more than one at that as well. That was a real I don't know, like just unexpected turn.
Yeah, it's a movie about talking animals that tackles institutionalized racism. Like, I mean, it's really quite impressive. And I remember like one of the first trailers for it mostly just being the scene with the sloth at the
as a DMV.
He's just slowly. That's all it did. And I actually love when trailers do that. They don't do a lot of quick little bits. They just no. Here's one scene to tell you what the comedy's like, and just enjoy it. And that's what the more movie's going to be.
I mean, growing up on Disney films, I think I learned a lot about empathy and not judging people by the cover.
I learned about empathy from Terminator 2, but go on. My number 43 is How to Train Your Dragon 2. So I loved the first one. The first one was such a pleasant surprise. The second one, obviously I was looking forward to it, but sequels don't always live up to the original and aren't necessarily worth the wait or anything like that. But I actually think How to Train Your Dragon 2 is better than the original. I think it basically took it and made it more grown up. It gave me even more emotional stakes, and there's actually some really thrilling moments in this. And I don't tend to get thrilled during animated movies. That's a rare occasion for me.
I think it's weird that you've already had 2 animated movies on your list. I was not expecting that many.
What was the other one?
Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah, okay, there you go. I've had 2. but no, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is this came out the same year as I think Big Hero 6 and the Lego Movie. And I do like Big Hero 6 quite a bit. But I think How to Train Your Dragon 2 is the crown jewel of that year, animated wise, and obviously I regard it very highly for the decade. It's everything you said about the original, obviously I agree with. It's wonderful, score's great. What I love about the second one is that it does make it a bit darker, it does make it a bit more intense, and I'm so into that toothless and hiccup bond that like I was on the edge of my seat during the second movie. I was so into this journey in the story, and I can't say enough nice things about it. It's
a brilliant movie.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they did the impossible and came in and said, no, like this justifies this being more than one movie. This is going to be at least a trilogy because this is the second one and this is just as good if not better than the first one. In fact, I actually thought they were going to end in a cliffhanger at one point. There was a moment right before sort of the final act where I thought maybe that we just had the final act, and this isn't a complaint about the pacing, it was just the way it was building up to this statement. I thought they could cut to black here and this would work as a cliffhanger for 3. It totally could. And It didn't, but it could have done. And the fact that I wasn't mad even when I was thinking that says that they had me. They had me hook, line, and sinker. So
42 is The Big Short by Adam McKay. which another Oscar movie. I don't think it won. It won for a screenplay. I think it was nominated. But this was the story of the financial collapse of the mid 2000s, and just the way this movie was put together and handled, where when they're talking about these complex financial schemes and not definitions but concepts, they bring in people to break the fourth wall. So you got Margot Robbie at one point explaining how things work, although they put her in a bathtub, so it's not very, like, I'm not paying attention to what she's talking about when you put Margot Robbie in a bathtub, right? Like, that wasn't very smart. But the rest of them work pretty well, and you have Steve Carell, you have Christian Bale, Brad Pitt, a little piece in there, and Adam McKay does not shy from some of the more tragic aspects of it, and how these guys actually came out ahead when everybody else lost. And it's a real fascinating way that he handled that, which made it my number, what was that, 42 movie.
Yeah, I'll give it some credit, because it wasn't something I assumed I was going to like, but it did do a good job of making a very dull subject not super dull.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting to be bored to tears, and it kept the energy up. I mean, it's got an insane cast. I mean, you mentioned Steve Carell, but you got Christian Bale's in there. You got Ryan Gosling, I'm pretty sure, is in
Gosling
there.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
will be a fixture on my list coming up. But yeah, I forgot Gosling was in there. That's how much the cast is, because his role, he's kind of the storyteller, almost in that way of 300, where it starts with the one character that this is what happened, this is what's going to happen, and this is what happened afterwards.
Only Matt would bring up 300 to try and explain how The Big Short tells its story.
That's why people watch.
My 42 got one that Pete's gonna hate he'll hate it once I tell him what it is, because he won't remember by the name. It's called The Last 5 Years. And so this stars Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan, who is Win on Supergirl, and this is a musical, and it's a complete through musical, so it's pretty much like 95% of the time it's in song, very little downtime. And this is a movie about their relationship, and the gimmick is that it's told from opposite perspectives, but through opposite points in time. So one of them starts at the beginning of their relationship and works through. The other one starts at the end of their relationship and works backwards. And the midpoint of the film is where they cross over is the proposal. And it's this journey where from the start how it ends, but still watching this whole relationship unfold. And it's both of them are doing great jobs with the songs. Definitely not for Pete, even though some of this sounds like it might be appealing to him. The fact that it's a proper musical is not his sort of movie at all. But if you are into musicals, then this is a fantastic little gem that I kind of stumbled across randomly and loved.
42. So that would be Toy Story 3. It's I don't know.
What?
It's a good.
What are you laughing at? I didn't do anything. For people listening to the audio version, I literally didn't do anything. There was no visual thing to make him laugh.
I was thinking of all the fun times with all those crazy toys. No, I think like this was I think it like kind of became a thing with like Pixar about how like like you're just gonna end up crying at those movies, but I guess maybe Up probably came before this, which had that really sad opening. But everyone was talking about the ending for this, and like how everyone was kind of worried about these toys and having genuine emotions for them. But no, I thought it was like really well handled. I remember when it came out, I think like, why do we really need another sequel to this? But I think they actually did something that was really fun and had like a weird point to it. And again, like actual genuine emotions and stuff. So it was a good movie.
Toy Story 3 was very good. I concur. Got surprisingly no, I won't say dark, but like the stakes got very high at one point, higher than I would expect for a Pixar movie. So fair play.
I feel like, I mean, maybe this was already kind of happening before, but this was like the first thing that I kind of remember where people being like, oh yeah, like maybe kids movies can actually have like real emotion and like consequences and stuff in them, as opposed to Shrek 8 or whatever. It was just like, oh, Shrek's farting again, whatever.
Yeah, your favorite.
Oh yeah, I love Shrek. Such a big Shrek head.
My number 42 is Black Klansmen, movie from, I think that was last year, right? Or
Yeah,
2
it was-
years ago?
No, last year, technically, I mean, it's now January as we record this, so technically 2 years ago now, but yeah, last year was in 2018.
Yeah. Another movie sort of similar to Zootopia, but like the opposite end about not being able to live with people who don't look like you. Really funny, really smart, very sensitive topic that is handled really, really well. And great music.
It's just funny because Spike Lee is known for someone who is very, shall we say, unsubtle. But
Oh, sure.
this
I
movie kind of,
seen 25th Hour.
yeah, this movie isn't subtle, but it basks in how unsubtle it is. It's meant to be in your face the entire time, and it kind of
Yeah.
works to its strengths. It's
Mhm.
no, it's good. And it is,
Really, really great performance from something Washington. Denzel's son.
Yeah, he's popping up in a lot of things recently. He's in Nolan's
He's
next.
gonna be in a Nolan movie.
Yeah, and if there's, I mean, if that's not a testament to success these days.
I don't know. He gives roles to Anne Hathaway. So
What's more insulting to you, that he gave a role to Anne Hathaway, or that he gave a role again to Anne Hathaway after already seen her in a previous movie?
it's unfathomable. Like she must have some dirt on him. The only thing I could think of.
Oh, the Hathaway hate is so strong. But yes, the Black Klansman's very good. It's got an all-star cast as well. I mean, it's not just Washington. There's like,
Mm-hmm. Adam Driver.
Adam Driver's really good in it. You got some veterans kind of around it as well.
That 70s show guy.
Yes, he's pretty great as
David Duke.
yes, he's particularly great in that role actually.
Yeah, definitely.
And Topher Grace is not someone I would typically say I like. I remember thinking he was the worst part of Predators, which is not a great movie, of course. It's a pretty mediocre movie, but I remember him particularly bothering me in that movie.
Yeah, that movie sucks.
My number 42 is The Avengers. This was always going to appear somewhere on here. This is a special. I love a lot of Marvel on my list, by any stretch. I know Matt made a point of trying to keep it down to a limited number because he didn't want
Is
to
that because otherwise it would be half Marvel?
yeah, so he didn't want to be a cliche. But the first Avengers was a special occasion. It was a special event that felt genuinely new and exciting. It felt like a cinematic thing where we're all going to remember this because it kind of is this generation Star Wars, right? It's like, maybe not for our age necessarily, but for a certain age range, this is their Star Wars. This is the thing they're going to remember growing up with.
No, I get you. There are people who are, I mean, that we know that are only a couple of years younger than us, who say they grew up coming from like Iron Man through to Avengers, and it felt special for them.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, there's people who were 10 when Iron Man came out, but then were 21 when Endgame came out, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, that's kind of a weird part of your life for this
It's a
entire
very
franchise.
part of your life.
Yeah.
As well.
Like you've went through so much in those 11 years along with this movie franchise. Like this is kind of insane. But it kept it simple, and I think that's one of the strengths of that first Avengers movie is that Joss Whedon kept it very simple. It was about the team forming and about very little else. It's kind of the promise of what crossovers from comic books are supposed to be, and sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. And we'd never really seen it done in a movie before, where they'd all had their own movies and then they came together, and it felt like they'd really done it, right? And I think part of that special feeling obviously is faded because there've been so many of them, but it was special that first time. It was, hey, they actually did it. They pulled it off.
Green Room, Anton Yelchin, Patrick Stewart. You talk about claustrophobic of 10 Cloverfield Lane. This amps all that to 11. Like I have not felt this much anxiety in a movie. I can't tell you. Like edge of my seat, stomach's hurting, super tense. But long story short of it is this punk band touring through Oregon end up accidentally playing a white supremacist bar and see something that they're not supposed to, where now they get locked in the green room and have to try to survive. Odds are not in their favor. So, but yeah, Anton puts in such a great performance. I miss him as an actor so much. He was always good in everything he did. Patrick Stewart playing the heavy, where you still want to trust him, right? Because that's Patrick Stewart. but you're like, no, the dude's a Nazi. You don't trust him, but that's his vibe as a character throughout the movie. Yeah, really, really, really good. Really tense. That's the key word here.
Yeah, that movie's kind of unrelenting.
Yes.
It's one of those things where it was really difficult to classify at the end of the year because it was like, do we count this as a horror movie? Because it's kind of horrific. Like it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I left and texted my friend going, I love Green Room, fantastic movie. I never want to see it again. Like that's it. But now I do. Now it pops up on Netflix and go, do I want to watch that? Do I want to ruin the rest of my night and have fever dreams? I don't know. But yeah, really good movie. I'm trying to remember that director's name and it's escaping me right now. But he did Blue Ruin.
Oh yeah,
then,
Jeremy Saulnier.
Sonia, yeah, that guy. He's real good. Netflix kind of. I haven't seen his Netflix movies, but
yeah,
Blue Ruin.
Yeah, he did one this year, which I did not. The reviews weren't that kind about it. I never got around to watching it, but
yeah, he did one a couple of years ago with Jeffrey Wright. That was his first Netflix one that I heard bad things about. Maybe it's the same one.
Yeah, I think that was this year.
Time. So yeah, something about wolves or something.
Yeah.
Wolves, but yeah. And then his partner made a movie. I forget his name, but he's in all his movies. He was the main character in Blue Ruin, but he made a very Saulnier esque movie, and I don't feel at home in this world anymore. And that kind of scratched that itch. All over. You can tell they come from the same era, not era, but like same cloth.
Imogen Poots is really good in Green Room as well, actually.
Yes, she is too.
My 41 is a Joss Whedon movie. It's the best Joss Whedon movie in existence.
No, it's not. I know what it is. It's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's the worst one by far.
No, it is easily the best one. This is Much Ado About Nothing. This is a extremely faithful, adaptation, retelling of the Shakespeare, and it features a phenomenal cast that Whedon just it's all his regulars that he's just pulled in for a day at his house and gone, hey, let's do this, and it works. They're all great, and it's a delightful movie. This happens to be my favorite Shakespeare play anyway, so I'm already suckered in, and then you put a strong director with a great cast. I'm there.
That would be The Raid Redemption. Simple movie. Basically, this guy is just making his way through a building to get to like these bad guys.
Hold on a second. Let's mention that he's like a police officer and like there's a crisis. Like, the way he said that is like, he's making his way through a building to get to the top floor.
So it's an action movie, and it's like, you have like police officer who just basically has to make his way through a bunch of bad guys to get to the main bad guy on the top floor. It's almost kind of video gamey, but just like the action and the stunts in this were so cool. And I remember when it was coming out, like a lot of people were talking about how kind of unbelievable it is, and it really is. I kind of miss, like, I don't watch a lot of action movies, but like, when someone is like, oh man, you gotta see like the new Fast and the Furious or whatever, and you watch it and like it just looks like these like rubbery CGI guys like running up a building or something. It's like so stupid. But I love like something like this where you can actually see someone that's it's impressive that they're actually doing stunts and like all these crazy moves, and it's just really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I concur. If you want a recent recommendation, it's on Netflix actually. The Night Comes for Us, I think it was called. It was an Indonesian film.
Okay.
In fact, one of the guys from The Raid was in it. Really good. The first half of it especially was just this extended, like, it was like action scene just led into another action scene. It was really good. All martial arts stuff. But no, Raid's really good. I actually think the sequel's even better.
I've never seen the sequel. I want to, but I've never gotten around to seeing it.
I actually saw the sequel in theaters and had a hell of an experience with that. So I would recommend it.
Yeah.
But the Raid's really good though.
41 is The Big Sick, Kumail Nanjiani's, I don't want to say big break, but like the movie he made with his wife about their love story or how they met, their meet cute gone wrong. Really, really sweet. And I think I always respected Kumail from what I've seen him in before, but like I don't know, this movie really like put him on my list of people to watch after. I think it really showcased his talents as a writer and as an actor. And I really loved the scene. Every scene that is with the parents, her parents, is so sweet and funny, and it's an interesting perspective about how far you should go if you care about somebody. And I don't know, it was a really sweet film. I liked it a lot.
My number 41 is I Saw the Devil, which is a Korean film. Actually has the star of Oldboy in it as the villain, and this is a revenge thriller where this killer is vicious as hell. He does some nasty shit at the start of the movie, and then the main character is a cop whose loved one was one of the victims. He actually finds the killer very quickly, and the movie's actually him constantly catching the killer and messing with him, not killing him, but letting him go, so that the killer's constantly running away and in fear and constantly being hunted. And it's got a little bit of that Korean sense of humor that some of these darker movies that they do still have, but it's very... It definitely puts you in that dark place of like revenge, and how much that breeds in your brain and how much you become consumed by it, because the main character, the cop, becomes so sinister in how he treats the killer in a method of revenge, and a method of justice even, but it's wonderfully dark, and you don't know if you should feel sorry for the killer at a certain point because it gets really bad, but really good. But at the same time, he's also a sniveling little shit who killed people, so it plays with your sympathies and all that kind of thing, and when a movie can do that, it's usually quite impressive. That'll bring an end to this part of our top 50. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at Mild_Fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, head over to patreon.com/MildFuzzTV, and you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your troubles. Otherwise, of course, you can share us out on social media and things like that. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. Keep watching movies, guys, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.